Let me ask you something honest. Have you ever been sitting with a man, the conversation is easy, the moment feels warm, and somewhere inside you a quiet voice says something is happening here, something real. But then the doubt walks in. You tell yourself you're probably reading too much into it. You tell yourself you've done this before and been wrong. You tell yourself to wait for words, wait for clarity, wait for him to just say it out loud. And so you sit there second-guessing the very thing your body already understood. I want you to stop doing that. Not because feelings are always right, they aren't always, but because there's an entire language happening right in front of you that most women have never been taught to read. And it's not complicated. It's not manipulation. It's not some trick. It's biology. It's the oldest, most honest form of communication human beings have ever had. It lives in the body before it ever reaches the mouth. And once you understand it, once you really see it, you will never feel confused in that kind of moment again. Because here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. A man who is truly attracted to you will almost always reveal it before he says it. Not in dramatic gestures, not in grand romantic speeches, but in these quiet, almost invisible physical moments that happen when his guard is down and his body is reacting faster than his brain can catch up. And one of the most powerful of those reveals, one of the most telling signals that a man actually likes you, has nothing to do with what he says and everything to do with what he touches. Stay with me, because we're going to go through each one carefully. And near the end, I'm going to show you something that ties all of this together in a way that will completely change how you show up in these moments. Because understanding this isn't just about reading him, it's about becoming the kind of woman who never needs to chase a man for clarity again. Let's start at the neck, and I want you to really picture this moment. You're sitting across from him. Maybe it's a first date. Maybe it's someone you've known for a while and something has quietly shifted between you. The conversation has been going well. You say something, maybe it's a little playful, maybe it's something warm, maybe you just hold eye contact 1 second longer than usual. And then without thinking, his hand moves to the back of his neck. He grazes it, he rubs it once, he adjusts his collar even though nothing needed adjusting. Most women see that and think nothing of it. But that moment just told you something important. The neck is one of the most sensitive, most protected parts of the human body. It sits close to the pulse, it's vulnerable. And because of that, when a person feels emotionally activated, nervous, stirred, suddenly self-aware, the hand instinctively travels there. It's a self-soothing reflex. The nervous system gets a little overwhelmed, and the body reaches for the one place that brings it back to calm. Now here's why that matters for you. A man who feels nothing around you stays neutral. His body stays relaxed, flat, unaffected. But a man who feels something, a man whose chest is tightening a little, whose mind is suddenly paying close attention, whose body is picking up on the energy between you, that man cannot fully hide it. His body will try to regulate the feeling, and the neck is often where it goes first. I remember a woman telling me once that she went on a date with a man she wasn't sure about. She said he seemed calm, confident, very composed. But every time she leaned in, every time she laughed, every time the conversation went somewhere more personal, she noticed his hand go to the back of his neck just briefly, just for a second. She almost ignored it, but something in her held on to it. 3 weeks later, he told her she was the most intriguing woman he had ever sat across from, that he had felt completely caught off guard by her from the very first evening. His mouth took 3 weeks to say what his neck was saying on night 1. That's what you need to understand about this signal. It's not slow, it doesn't think first, it just reacts. And when it reacts around you consistently, not just once but again and again, whenever the moment between you gets warmer or more charged, that's not anxiety. That's attraction that hasn't found its words yet. But I want to add something here that most people skip over. Context will always matter. If he's in a stressful situation, if the room is tense, if the conversation just turned awkward, the neck touch could simply mean discomfort. So you're never reading one gesture in isolation. You're reading a pattern. You're reading whether his whole presence changes around you. The neck touch only becomes meaningful when it belongs to a bigger picture. And we'll talk about that bigger picture before we finish. Now, let's talk about the lips. This one is quieter. This one is subtle enough that even women who are paying close attention often miss it. But once you see it once, you'll start seeing it everywhere. And it will never stop telling you the truth. When a man touches his lips around you, brushes them with his finger, bites them lightly, exhales slowly, and lets his thumb pass near the corner of his mouth, something is happening underneath that gesture. The mouth is tied to desire, to speech, to closeness, to all the things we hold back until we feel safe enough to release them. So when his attention, his physical attention, keeps drifting there while he's with you, his body is revealing where his mind is quietly trying to go. And let me be clear about something. This doesn't have to be something obvious or dramatic. It's rarely a movie moment. It's a half second, a slight gesture, a moment that passes before you even have time to label it. But those half seconds are the most honest moments you will ever witness from a man who is trying to keep his feelings managed. Here's the detail that makes this sign even stronger. If his eyes move to your lips even briefly, even just for a flash, while his hand touches his own mouth, pay very close attention. That combination is not random. That is his nervous system responding to proximity and connection. That is desire and restraint living in the same gesture. That is a man who is feeling something and working quietly to keep it where it is. And I want you to think about this. Think about a man in your past, or maybe the man you're thinking about right now. Has there ever been a moment where the conversation dropped into something more real, more honest, more personal, where you said something that seemed to surprise him in the best way, where the laughter faded, and what was left was just the two of you and this charged, quiet air? And in that moment, did his hand move near his mouth? Did his lips press together for just a second? If yes, that moment mattered more than he showed you. That moment was the crack in the wall. That was him feeling something land deeper than he expected and doing everything he could to stay composed while his body quietly gave him away. Now what do you do with that? Nothing dramatic. You don't need to call it out. You don't need to ask, why are you touching your lips right now? That would ruin everything beautiful about it. What you do is stay present, stay calm, let the moment breathe. Because if you can hold that kind of quiet confidence in a charged moment, if you don't rush to fill every silence, if you don't get nervous and start talking faster, you become magnetic. And that leads us to something I'll come back to at the end that's going to be the most important thing I say today. But first, let's talk about the hair. Because this one, when you understand what's really driving it, completely changes how you see a man's self-awareness around you. He's talking to you, maybe things are going well. Maybe there's this comfortable ease between you, the kind where you both feel like you've known each other longer than you actually have, and then his hand goes to his hair. He runs his fingers through it. He smooths the side. He pushes it back. If his hair is shorter, maybe it's the back of his head near the ear, along the temple. Maybe it's not even his hair. Maybe it's his jawline he traces, or the side of his face, or a slow brush across his chin. This is presentation. This is a man's body going, wait, do I look okay right now? And here's why that's significant. We don't groom around people we don't care about impressing. When we feel indifferent, our body stays still. There's no adjustment, no fixing, no sudden awareness of how our hair is sitting or whether our collar is right. But when someone walks in or says something or smiles in a particular way and suddenly we care, the body responds with this instinct to present well, to show up as the best version. And that instinct is one of the oldest attraction signals there is. It predates language. It predates culture. It is written into our biology. When we want to be chosen, we display. So when he touches his hair around you, especially right after you've given him attention, right after you've smiled at him, right after you've said something that made him feel seen or noticed, what you're watching is a man trying to live up to the feeling you created in him. That is not vanity, that is care. That is a man who wants to be worth your gaze. And then there's the jaw. The jawline carries something specific for men. It's tied to confidence, to identity, to the way they want to be perceived. So when his fingers move there, when he strokes his chin, traces the edge of his face, rests his hand near his jaw while looking at you, pay attention to what came just before that moment. Did you say something that shifted the tone? Did you share something honest? Did you catch him in a look he didn't expect? Because the jaw touch often comes in the exact moment a man is recalibrating. He's taking in what just happened between you. He's feeling something and trying to stay where he is. His body reaches for that anchor point, the jaw, the chin, the lower face, and holds there for just a moment. That is the moment before something changes. And if his head is tilted slightly, if there's a quiet half smile, if his eyes have narrowed just a little in that way that says he's really looking at you and not just toward you, that gesture becomes one of the most beautiful confessions a man can make without speaking a single word. It says, "I see you." It says, "You got to me." It says, "I am sitting here feeling more than I planned to." Now let's talk about the hands. Because a man's hands are one of the most honest parts of his body, and most women spend all their energy watching his eyes when they should also be watching his hands. When a man feels genuinely comfortable around you, truly at ease, not performing comfort but actually feeling it, his hands open, his palms face up or outward. His gestures become freer, more expansive. He stops folding his arms, he stops gripping things. There's a relaxation that happens in the hands when someone feels safe in your presence, and that relaxation is not something most people can fake for long. But then there's the other version, the version that happens when attraction enters the space. His hands get slightly busier, he touches his own wrist, he runs his fingers over his forearm, he adjusts his watch, his sleeve, his ring, not because anything needs adjusting, but because his energy has nowhere else to go. He's feeling something, and his body is redirecting it. It's called displacement, and it happens when we want to reach out, but we're holding ourselves back. The energy has to go somewhere, so it turns inward. If you've ever noticed a man becoming suddenly more fidgety near you, not nervous in an uncomfortable way, but more alive, more alert, more physical in how he inhabits the space, that is the body managing attraction. It hasn't yet spoken out loud. And watch the direction. This is the detail most people never think to look for. If his gestures travel toward you, if his hands reach across the table when he talks, if he rests his fingers near your side of the space, if he seems to be slowly, gently, almost unconsciously closing the physical distance between you, that is not accidental. His body is leaning into you before his words have decided to. Real interest doesn't always announce itself, but it does move in a direction. There's also something that happens in the lower face, around the mouth, the chin, the jaw all together, that I want you to understand, because this is often the most emotionally loaded gesture of all. He places his hand near his chin while you're speaking. He rests a knuckle lightly near his lips. He listens to you with this quiet, focused stillness, and one hand is just there, near the lower half of his face, grounding him. That's an anchor touch. That's what the body does when emotion rises and the mind wants to stay composed. It reaches for a point of physical contact, something real, something grounding, because what's happening internally has gotten intense enough to need a counterbalance. In plain terms, you have his full attention, more attention than he expected to give. And he is sitting with that feeling and trying very hard not to let it move his face in ways he hasn't decided to allow yet. I want to say something here that I think is really important for women who are paying this kind of attention to the men in their lives. You're doing something right by watching, by being present, by reading the room instead of just filling it. But I also want to make sure you're using this awareness with warmth and not fear. Because the women who read these signals best are not the ones who are desperately looking for proof that he likes them. They're the ones who are calmly curious, who notice without needing to react immediately, who feel the signal and let it simply inform them, not send them into analysis for 3 hours. The calmest woman in the room almost always gets the clearest picture. And that brings me to something I promised you at the beginning, something that ties all of this together. Because here's what I really want you to walk away with today. Not just a list of gestures, not just a checklist to run through the next time you sit across from a man you're interested in, but a shift in how you carry yourself in those moments. When you know that attraction speaks through the body before it speaks through the mouth, something changes in you. You stop white-knuckling conversations. You stop filling every silence with words because the silence makes you nervous. You stop scanning his text for proof and start being present for the signals that are happening right in front of you. You become a woman who trusts her perception, and here's why that matters so much. The kind of man worth your time, the kind of man who is genuinely moved by you, genuinely interested, genuinely trying to figure out how to be near you more, that man is paying attention to how you respond to him in these quiet moments. He's watching whether you seem comfortable in the tension, whether you seem present or distracted, whether you can hold a charged moment without flinching or rushing away from it. And when he sees a woman who can do that, who can sit in that warm electric space between them with calm and confidence and a quiet little smile that says, "I feel this too, and I'm not afraid of it," he becomes even more drawn in, because that kind of woman is rare, and that kind of energy is irresistible. So the next time you notice his hand at his neck, his fingers near his lips, his hair suddenly needing attention after you walked in, don't reach for your phone and start texting your friend to analyze it. Just stay present. Just notice. Let yourself feel the energy of the moment without rushing to the end of the story. Because here's what those small touches are really telling you. They're telling you that your presence has weight, that something about you entered the room and it changed the air for him, that he is sitting there trying to keep himself together, trying to stay cool, trying not to reveal too much too fast, while his body quietly, honestly, irresistibly keeps giving him away. And the woman who notices that without flinching, without grabbing, without needing to name it out loud right then, that woman has already done something most women never do. She let him feel what it's like to be near someone who makes him work a little to stay composed. And trust me, that feeling is one he won't forget quickly. So stop looking for the perfect words from him. Start watching the space between the words. Start watching the neck, the lips, the hair, the hands, the jaw, the way his body moves when you're in the room, because the truth is almost always already there. It's just waiting for a woman calm enough to see it, and now you are. If this opens your eyes to something you've been missing, share it with a woman you know who deserves to feel this kind of confidence. And if you want to understand the next layer, how to respond to these signals in a way that pulls him closer without saying a word, that's exactly what we're talking about next. Don't go anywhere.